Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of this video. We're going to start off by, I want you guys to figure out what the area of this parallelogram is going to be. And once again, in order to do that, we have to use the formula for area of a parallelogram, okay, which is, and you guys should write this down first on your paper or whiteboard, area equals base multiplied by height. Okay, I want you guys to go ahead. Actually, wait just 1 second before we do that. Okay, notice we have our base. Okay, and this time our height's a little bit different. It's on the outside of the parallelogram, but that's okay because we can still use this. We're still talking about the height from the base, from the bottom base to the top base. Okay, go ahead and try to figure out what area this parallelogram is going to be. So for this, in order to figure it out, you have to identify the base and the height. The base in this is going to be 3 feet. As I mentioned before, here's your 90-degree angle. Like I said, it's like your X marks the spot. It's telling you exactly where the height and the base are. The height will always be from top to bottom. So the base is 3 feet, and the height, in this case, is 8 feet. Okay. Then you can go ahead and solve. And the area for this parallelogram, 3 times 8, is 24. And now you have to include your units with it. So your units are going to be feet. That's what it says on both numbers. Got to make sure it checks out with your dimensions. And then feet squared, since it's area, it's going to be squared. Okay, let's keep on moving along. So now we have a pendant, which a pendant is the on a necklace, little dangly part. Kind of hangs off of the necklace. So a pendant is in the shape of a rhombus. Now, a rhombus is slightly different than a parallelogram. It looks like a parallelogram. You can actually call a rhombus a parallelogram because it does have the same characteristics. However, the one difference is that in a rhombus, just like a square, all sides are congruent to each other. The word congruent in geometry just means equal. So when I say congruent, I just mean equal or equivalent. All right? And that's exactly what this next sentence is. So the pendant is in the shape of a rhombus. A rhombus is a parallelogram, with sides of equal length, or that are congruent. We want to know what the area is of the pendant. Well, in order to figure out the area of the pendant, you have to come up with the formula for area of a rhombus. Well, what's going to be the area of the rhombus? Well, if you read this first part, it says a rhombus is a parallelogram. Well, since a rhombus is a parallelogram, then we're going to use the same exact formula for a parallelogram. I want you guys to take a moment and tell me what is the formula to find the area of a parallelogram, or in this case, the rhombus. So, the formula that we are going to need to use is the same one for area of a parallelogram, which is also for a rhombus, and that's A equals base multiplied by height. So, since we're finding area, we can leave the A for area as is, and it's a capital variable this time because we are looking for area. We're actually looking for sorry guys, there you go. We're actually looking for the area, and when we deal with formulas, the variable is going to be capitalized. So like area, volume, surface area, perimeter, be capitalized. So the base, same as before. We're always going to look for our perpendicular lines, an angle. That's going to tell us exactly the 2 measurements to use. So our base is going to be 3 8/10 centimeters. 3 8/10. And our height is going to be 3 centimeters. So we're going to multiply 3 8/10 by 3. Alright, I want you guys to take a moment, include your units in your answer, but I want you guys to tell me what 3 8/10 multiplied by 3 is going to get us as our area. When you multiply these two together, you get 11 4/10. We have to include our units. They both have the same units, which is very important. So 11 4/10 centimeters, and then it's going to be squared. So the area of this rhombus, or the area of the pendant, is 11 4/10 centimeters squared. Let's keep on moving on. So now we're going to look at a couple different examples. We have the area of a parallelogram is 72 meters squared. What is the height of the parallelogram? Well, now it's telling us what the area is, but we're missing the height. So we're still going to have to use our formula for area of a parallelogram, because that's what it mentions. So we're going to start off with that. So now we're actually going to write out our formula. Area equals base multiplied by height. But notice we have the area, 72 meters squared, and we have the base, but we're missing h, the height. So this is what we're going to have to solve this time. So let's go ahead and substitute all the values that we know. Well, the area of the parallelogram is 72 meters squared. So we're going to put 72 as our area. We know the base, in this case, it's 12 meters. Once again, here is your 90-degree perpendicular angle. So X marks the spots. There's your base, there's your height. So our base is 12 meters. And we're going to multiply that by h. Well, we don't know what h actually is. Well, how are we going to solve for this? What are we going to do to approach solving out for what h is going to be? Well, if you're thinking the same thing I am, we are going to use our handy-dandy t-chart. And we are going to have to isolate the variable h by itself and solve for it. Well, we have 72 equals 12h. You guys tell me, what are we going to do to figure out the height in this case? Well, to figure out the height in this case, we're going to have to divide both sides by 12. If you said divide by 12, you're absolutely correct. Okay. When we do 12 divided by 12 on this side, we're going to be left with 1, so those cancel out. And we're just left with our variable h. We can bring down our equal sign. Now we get to do a little bit of math here. So with your calculator, you can do 72 divided by 12, or if you know 72 divided by 12 in your head, you can do that as well. When you do that, you still get 6 as your height. Still feels like something's missing here. Oh, that's right, our units. So we're going to need to remember to write our units here. Well, what's going to be our units for our height? Recall that the base was meters, and that the area is always meters squared. So what's going to be the units for the height? Well, the units for the height, remember, we multiply the height by the base, so the units for the height should have the same units as the base, which was just meters. So our height is actually 6 meters. Keep moving on. All right, let's have you guys go ahead and try this one on your own. So the area of the parallelogram is 135 inches squared. What is the base of the parallelogram? Recall what formula for area of a parallelogram you will have to use. Area equals base times height. You have your area, 135, and you have your height, 15. I want you guys to figure out what the base is going to be. Give that one a try on your own. Okay guys, to go about solving this, Since we know the area and we're looking for the base, we're going to substitute in the value for area, which is 135 inches squared. We don't know the base, so we would have to write b multiplied by the height, which is 15. Well, now we're going to have to set up our t-chart again. To get the variable by itself, we would have to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division, and divide by 15 on both sides. That cancels out over here, 15 divided by 15. Then we have 135 divided by 15 on the other side. Well, we can bring down our equal sign. We can bring down our b. And then in our calculators, we can enter 135 divided by 15, and we get 9. But is 9 our final answer here? If you said no, you would actually be correct. In order to get our final answer, we have to include our units. Just like with the last problem with height, whatever the unit is for height is going to be the unit for our base. Well, the unit for height was inches. So for our base, since that's what we found, it's going to be inches. Only when we are finding area A do we have the little 2, or the exponent 2, indicating that the unit is squared. Alright, I want you on your own figure out what the area of this rhombus is. Go ahead and do that now. So for this one, we're going to have to use the formula for area of rhombus and parallelogram, which is area equals base multiplied by height. In this case, the base is going to be 22.5 millimeters, and our height is going to be 20 millimeters. Once again, we can look for where our perpendicular lines are, where the right angle is, and that's our X marks the spot, tells us our height, tells us our base. So we're going to multiply 22.5 by 20. When we do this, we get 450. But this can't be our final answer yet because we don't have units. Well, what's going to be our units? We have our height and our base is millimeters. Well, since we're finding area, we're going to have to use that same unit, except we're going to have to make it squared and have 450 millimeters squared. All right, guys, last one for you. I want you to give this one a try. I want you, we have the area of the parallelogram is 65 feet squared. I want you to figure out what its height is going to be. Give this one a try on your own. All right, in order to go through this one, we're going to have to use that formula for area of a parallelogram. We know that the area is 65 feet squared, so we can substitute that in for A. And we know what the base is here. Now, look at our 90-degree angle, or perpendicular lines. X marks the spot, correct? Well, it does for H, but look, it's referring to this base up here. Well, on a parallelogram, recall that opposite sides are congruent. So when it says 13 feet down here, that also means this is 13 feet up here. So we can use 13 as our base. We don't know our height. In order to figure out our height, we're going to have to set up our t-chart. Divide both sides by 13, which would cancel out the 13s here. We would be left with H. And then we have to do 65 divided by 13, which is going to get us 5. And we would have to include our units. Well, we have height already, which was feet squared. We have our base feet. We don't know our height. We have to use the same units as the height, as the base. So it's going to be 5 feet. Thank you guys for listening. Please rewatch any parts of the 2 videos that we have posted today. If you have questions, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. Hope you guys are having an outstanding day. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, guys.